$200,000. That's how much value some Florida homeowners have watched vanish. In just 3 years. Gone. Poof. Picture this. You buy your dream home in the Sunshine State. Palm trees, ocean breeze, no income tax. Then you blink, and your home is worth tens of thousands less, sitting unsold for over 3 months, while the for sale sign rusts in your front yard. Sounds impossible, right? It's happening right now, in 2026, across Florida. For 10 years, everyone was rushing to buy here. Today, in a growing list of towns, almost nobody is. Prices are crashing, inventory is exploding, and buyers, they've simply walked away. So which towns got hit the hardest? We're counting down the 10 Florida towns where no one is buying anymore. And the #1 spot was just named the worst housing market in all of America. Stick around. The reason will shock you. Number 1, Cape Coral, Fort Myers. Let's not waste any time. We're starting with the worst of the worst. Cape Coral, Fort Myers isn't just struggling. It was officially crowned the worst housing market in America by the Wall Street Journal. And once you see the numbers, you'll understand why. Median home prices here have already crashed 9%, dropping to around $341,000. But here's the terrifying part. Experts at Realtor.com predict prices will fall another 10% in 2026. That's the steepest decline of any major city in the entire country. At one point, a jaw-dropping 12,000 homes flooded the market at the same time. 12,000. So what went so horribly wrong? Cape Coral was built on canals and low-lying coastline. Beautiful on a postcard, but a magnet for hurricanes. And after recent storms, insurance costs exploded. We're talking premiums so brutal that some owners simply can't afford to keep their homes, forcing them to sell into a market with almost no buyers. Prices here actually peaked back in early 2023, and it's been a slow, painful slide ever since. Every month, more sellers panic, more listings pile up. And buyers? They're sitting back, watching, waiting for prices to fall even further. If you're a buyer with patience and cash, this could be the opportunity of a decade. But if you're a seller here in 2026, brace yourself. The leverage is completely gone. And believe it or not, Cape Coral is just the beginning. Number 2, Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton. If you thought Cape Coral was a one-off disaster, think again. Just up the coast sits our number 2, and it's nearly as brutal. Welcome to Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton. On paper, this place has everything buyers dream about. Stunning Gulf beaches, golf courses, and that laid-back Florida lifestyle. So how did it become one of the coldest markets in America? Here are the numbers that should stop you in your tracks. Realtor.com projects home prices in this metro will plunge a staggering 8.9% in 2026. And it gets worse. At one point, Northport posted the single biggest year-over-year price drop in the entire country. Not the biggest in Florida, the biggest in America. Let that sink in. A town most people have barely heard of quietly became ground zero for the housing slowdown. Today, the tables have flipped completely. Homes are now selling below asking price. Sellers who once held all the power are slashing their listings just to get noticed, and still watching them sit. This is what experts call a deep buyer's market, and Northport is the textbook example. Here's the lesson that should send a chill down every homeowner's spine. A market can go from the hottest in the nation to the coldest in barely 2 years. That fast, that violent. But for everyone else watching from the sidelines, it's a warning, because the forces crushing Northport are spreading, and our next town proves it. Number 3, Punta Gorda. Now we arrive at a town that earned a title no community ever wants. Meet Punta Gorda, a quiet, charming waterfront town in Charlotte County. It looks peaceful, sleepy even. But behind that calm postcard image hides a shocking truth. According to Adams' 2026 risk report, Charlotte County, home to Punta Gorda, is the single riskiest housing market in the entire nation. Not one of the riskiest, the riskiest. Number 1 in all of America. So what makes a sleepy little town the most dangerous market in the country? It's a toxic combination of 3 forces hitting at the exact same time: and each one is scarier than the last. First, the inventory explosion. Active listings have ballooned to over 1,500 homes sitting on the market. That's a tidal wave of supply with nowhere near enough buyers to absorb it. Second, the waiting game from hell. Homes here are now sitting 70 to 100 days before they sell, if they sell at all. Compare that to the boom years, when listings vanished in a weekend. Today, sellers are watching their properties rot on the market for months. And third, this is the real gut punch: underwater mortgages, foreclosures, and rising unemployment. Underwater means homeowners now owe more than their house is worth. They're trapped. They can't sell without taking a loss, and they can't always afford to stay. That's the kind of pressure that turns a slowdown into a full-blown crisis. Add in Florida's brutal insurance costs and hurricane exposure, and you've got the perfect storm in one small town. For sellers in Punta Gorda right now, it's painful. The leverage is completely gone, and pricing too high means your home could sit for a quarter of a year. But for buyers with patience and cash, this is a rare, deep discount zone. Just do your homework, and always check insurance costs before you make an offer. Because trust me, our next town has its own dirty little secret. Number 4, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. Now, brace yourself, because this one is going to surprise a lot of people. So far, we've talked about smaller towns and coastal pockets. But our number 4 is one of Florida's biggest, most famous, most beloved metros. A place that was supposed to be untouchable. Welcome to Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. For years, Tampa was the crown jewel of Florida's boom. Young professionals poured in, companies relocated, beaches, nightlife, sports teams, a booming downtown. It had it all. Prices exploded during the pandemic as buyers fought tooth and nail over every listing. And now, Realtor.com projects Tampa home prices will drop 3.6% in 2026. When a market this large, this popular, and this established starts sliding backward, that's not a small-town fluke. That's a warning siren for the entire state. But here's where it gets really ugly. The condo market. Tampa's condos have been hammered, and the villain isn't just falling prices, it's HOA fees and special assessments. After new Florida safety laws forced condo buildings to fully fund their repair reserves, monthly dues skyrocketed. We're talking some owners hit with thousands of dollars per month, plus surprise special assessments that can run into the tens of thousands out of nowhere. Imagine buying a cheap condo, only to get slapped with a $30,000 repair bill months later. That's the nightmare scenario playing out across Tampa Bay right now, and it's scaring buyers away in droves. So here's your critical takeaway, and this could literally save you a fortune. If you're shopping for a condo in Tampa, demand 2 documents before you sign anything: the reserve study and the special assessment history. Those papers tell you whether you're buying a home or a financial time bomb. The lesson from Tampa is the scariest one yet. No market is too big to fall. If it can happen to one of Florida's flagship cities, it can happen anywhere. And speaking of falling, our next town built its whole identity on the beach. Wait until you hear what's happening there. Number 5, Daytona Beach, Deltona Ormond Beach. We're halfway through, and this one hits where it hurts: the beach itself. Welcome to Daytona Beach, Deltona Ormond Beach. This stretch of coastline is legendary. World-famous racing, miles of sand you can literally drive your car on, and that classic Florida beach town dream. For decades, owning a place here felt like a guaranteed win. Not anymore. Realtor.com projects home prices across this area will drop a painful 3.6% in 2026. Beachfront, the one thing everyone assumed was bulletproof, is suddenly bleeding value. So how does paradise turn into a problem? 2 words: insurance and hurricanes. This is the harsh reality of coastal Florida in 2026. After recent storms, flood zones got reevaluated, and insurance premiums exploded overnight. Some homeowners didn't just see their rates climb, they saw their policies canceled entirely. And a home you can't insure is a home almost nobody can buy. Here's the brutal part, straight from local brokers. When a property loses its insurability after hurricane damage, it doesn't just dip a few percentage points. It gets, and I'm quoting here, be creamed. We're talking massive, devastating losses on individual homes. That creates a strange split market. One street might be holding steady while the house around the corner, hit by flooding or stuck with an impossible insurance bill, collapses in value. It's a minefield. And buyers know it, so they're treading very carefully. Your survival tip for any coastal Florida purchase? Confirm you can actually insure the home before you make an offer. Get a real quote in writing. In 2026, the insurance bill, not the asking price, is what truly decides whether a deal lives or dies. Beautiful beaches, terrifying fine print. That's Daytona today. And we're not done. Our next 5 towns prove this slowdown is creeping far beyond the coast. Loving this list? Hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, and it genuinely fuels the hours we pour into these videos. And here's our question for you. If you had to bet your own money, which Florida town do you think recovers first? Drop your pick in the comments. We read every single one. Number 6, Ocala. Now we leave the coastline behind and head inland. Because here's the part nobody wants to admit. This slowdown isn't just a beach problem anymore. It's spreading deep into the heart of Florida. Welcome to Ocala, the famous horse capital of the world. Rolling green pastures, world-class horse farms, and that peaceful country Florida charm. For years, Ocala was the affordable escape, the place buyers ran to when the coast got too expensive. No oceanfront insurance nightmares, no hurricane storm surge, just wide-open land in reasonable prices. So why is Ocala on this list? Because it became a victim of its own success. Adams data now flags Ocala among the Florida markets seeing price declines in early 2026. And the reason is almost ironic. Everybody had the same idea. During the boom, buyers flooded into Ocala chasing affordability. Investors followed. Builders rushed in to meet demand. Prices climbed fast, too fast for a market this size. And just like the coastal towns, Ocala's prices eventually outran what local incomes could support. Once the migration wave slowed, the town was left with more homes than buyers. Classic supply and demand, working in reverse. Now here's the good news, and the important distinction. Ocala's decline is not a Cape Coral-style collapse. There's no hurricane catastrophe here, no insurance death spiral. This is a cool down, not a crash. The underlying fundamentals, affordability, steady demand, room to grow, are actually stronger than most towns on this list. And that's exactly why Ocala might be one of the smartest places to watch in all of Florida. When a fundamentally healthy market dips, it creates a rare buying window, a chance to get in before the rebound. So here's your move. If you're a buyer hunting for long-term value rather than a quick flip, keep your eyes locked on Ocala. Watch for listings sitting 45 days or more, and don't be shy about making a strong, confident offer. A cooling market with solid bones? That's where the real opportunities hide. But our next town, it built its entire economy on magic, and even that couldn't save it. Number 7, Orlando Kissimmee Sanford. Get ready, Monson, because this one might be the biggest shock on the entire list. We're talking about a town that built its entire identity on magic. A place that welcomes tens of millions of visitors every single year. The theme park capital of the planet. The town that was supposed to be recession-proof, slowdown-proof, bulletproof. Welcome to Orlando Kissimmee Sanford. If anywhere in Florida was going to dodge this housing freeze, surely it would be Orlando, right? Endless tourism, constant job growth, a never-ending river of people moving in. And yet, Realtor.com projects Orlando home prices will fall around 1.6% in 2026. Now that drop may sound small compared to Cape Coral or Northport, but think about what it means. When even the magic kingdom of real estate starts sliding backward, it tells you this slowdown isn't some isolated coastal fluke. It's systemic. It's reaching into Florida's strongest, most diversified, most resilient markets. So what's dragging Orlando down? 2 big culprits. First, an inventory glut, specifically in short-term rentals and condos. During the boom, investors poured in, snapping up properties to cash in on the tourism goldmine. But now, the market is flooded with these listings, all competing for the same shrinking pool of buyers. Too much supply, not enough demand. and prices soften. Second, the same affordability wall hammering the rest of the state. Prices climbed so high so fast that regular families simply got priced out, and high mortgage rates and insurance costs slammed the door shut behind them. Here's the silver lining, though. If you've spent years dreaming of owning near Orlando but kept getting outbid, 2026 could finally be your window. The bidding wars are fading. Sellers are getting realistic. Your strategy? Hunt for listings that have been sitting 60 days or longer, especially in the condo and investor-heavy zones. Those sellers are motivated, and they'll negotiate. When even Orlando feels the chill, you know the whole state is shifting. And our next three towns? They round out the list with declines you'd never see coming. Number 8, Lakeland, Winter Haven. By now, you've seen the giants fall: Cape Coral, Tampa, even Orlando. So you might be thinking, surely the small, quiet inland towns are safe. Think again. Because our number 8 proves that nowhere in Florida is truly untouchable. Welcome to Lakeland, Winter Haven, a peaceful pair of towns tucked right between Tampa and Orlando. And that location? It was supposed to be the perfect sweet spot. Close enough to both major cities to commute, but far enough away to stay affordable. During the pandemic, that made Lakeland a magnet for remote workers, people who could work from anywhere and wanted more house for their money. For a while, it was a gold mine. Buyers flooded in. Prices climbed. Quiet little Lakeland suddenly became one of Florida's hottest hidden gems. And now, the momentum has reversed. Realtor.com projects home prices here will dip about 0.2% in 2026. Now, I know what you're thinking. 0.2%? That's nothing. And you're right, the number itself is tiny. But here's why it matters more than the percentage suggests. It's the direction that tells the real story. A market that was rocketing upward just 2 years ago has now stalled and flipped negative. When the brakes slam on a boomtown like this, it's a clear signal that the air is coming out of the bubble, even in the places everyone assumed were safe. The cause is the same quiet poison we keep seeing. Prices got pushed higher than local incomes could realistically support. Once the remote work rush cooled and mortgage rates climbed, demand softened, and the easy gains evaporated. Here's the real lesson from Lakeland. Don't assume an inland, affordable, boring market is off. Number 9, Jacksonville. We're almost at the end, and our number 9 is a true heavyweight. In fact, it's the biggest city in the entire state. Welcome to Jacksonville, Florida's most populous city and one of the largest cities by land area in the whole country. This is a sprawling powerhouse, a major port, a growing job market, a city that felt too big, too strong, and too diversified to ever land on a list like this. And yet, here it is. Realtor.com projects Jacksonville home prices will fall around 1.4% in 2026. So how does Florida's biggest city end up cooling off? The answer isn't a hurricane. It isn't an insurance death spiral. The villain here is something quieter, but just as powerful: overbuilding. Jacksonville has so much land that builders went into absolute overdrive during the boom. New subdivisions, new construction, fresh inventory popping up everywhere you look. For a while, demand soaked it all up. But now, that endless wave of new homes is competing directly with existing houses on the market. And when supply outpaces buyers, prices have nowhere to go but down. But here's the part you need to hear, because this is where Jacksonville flips from a problem into an opportunity. When builders are sitting on too many unsold homes, they get desperate. And desperate builders don't just lower prices, they start throwing incentives at buyers to close the deal. We're talking mortgage rate buydowns, closing cost credits, free upgrades, and more. So here's your power move, and it could save you thousands. If you're buying new construction in Jacksonville, never accept the sticker price as final. Walk in confident, ask directly for rate buydowns and closing cost help. In 2026, builders are competing for you, so make them work for it. The lesson from Jacksonville? Sometimes a declining market is really just a buyer's paradise in disguise. And now we've reached the final town on our list. Stick around, because number 10 ties this entire story together in a way you won't expect. Number 10, Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville. And here we are, the final stop on our countdown. And fittingly, we're ending on Florida's legendary Space Coast. Welcome to Palm Bay, Melbourne, Titusville, the stretch of coastline where America launches rockets into space. This area has it all: Atlantic beaches, a booming aerospace industry, NASA on its doorstep, and a steady flow of high-paying tech and engineering jobs. On paper, it's one of the most promising regions in the entire state. So how does a place with rockets and beaches end up on a list of towns where nobody's buying? The answer is simple, and by now you've heard it before. Palm Bay rode the pandemic boom hard. Buyers poured in chasing affordable coastal living and those strong aerospace paychecks. Prices climbed fast, maybe too fast. And now Realtor.com projects home prices here will slip about 1% in 2026. Now let's be honest, a 1% dip is the gentlest decline on our entire list. This isn't a Cape Coral catastrophe or a Northport freefall. Far from it. Palm Bay's fundamentals are genuinely solid, thanks to that diversified high-tech job market that keeps real demand alive. But that tiny number still tells a big story, because it confirms the pattern we've watched unfold across all 10 towns. Even Florida's strongest, most future-proof regions have lost their boom-era momentum. The era of guaranteed runaway price growth is over. The whole state has shifted gears. And here's the upside for you. A market that's flattening, not crashing, is actually a dream scenario for buyers. The frantic bidding wars are gone. Sellers can no longer name their price. For the first time in years, you hold the leverage. Your move? If you're eyeing the Space Coast, take your time. Make confident, fair offers. And don't be afraid to negotiate, because in 2026, sellers here are finally listening. So that's our full list of 10 Florida towns where almost no one is buying anymore. But before you go, stick around, because the single pattern connecting all 10 of these towns is the most important takeaway of all. So there you have it. 10 Florida towns where the buyers have vanished, the listings are piling up, and the for sale signs are gathering dust. From the total collapse in Cape Coral to the gentle cool down in Palm Bay, we've covered the full spectrum. But here's the single most important truth of this entire video: the pattern connecting all 10 towns. Are you ready? Florida isn't dying. Florida is resetting. Look closely, and every town on this list shares the exact same DNA. They all had the biggest pandemic price explosions. Home values doubled, even tripled, far faster than people's incomes could ever keep up. Then reality hit: brutal insurance costs, an inventory flood, and a slowdown in people moving in. As one top economist put it, this isn't a bust, it's a come down back to reality. And that reframe changes everything, because a falling market is terrifying for sellers, but it's a once-in-a-decade opportunity for buyers. Mortgage rates have eased to around 6.3%. Inventory is high, and sellers are finally pricing with realism instead of fantasy. If you've been locked out of Florida for years, this might be your moment. So here's the single smartest move you can make in 2026. Get an insurance quote before you make any offer. In today's Florida, it's the insurance bill, not the sticker price, that makes or breaks the deal. Whether you're buying, selling, or just watching from the sidelines, remember this: markets move in cycles. The towns crashing hardest today could be tomorrow's comeback stories. The key is knowing the facts before everyone else does. Stay smart, stay patient, and always do your homework before you sign. Because in real estate, the people who win aren't the lucky ones. They're the informed ones.